Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the What's in My Ed podcast. Today, I'm joined by Rachel, Mike, and Jono, the writers for the Big Picture Show. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you?
Hello.
Good. Great. How are you?
All right, man. So when I was talking to Rachel last time, I told you guys and gals that wrote in questions for the Big Picture Show that this would be a completely separate episode. And that's what we're going to talk about. There's going to be 100% Big Picture Show. So from everybody's perspective, and it's going to be interesting to see how we're going to bounce around so we're not all talking over each other, but we can figure this shit out. We're better than the machines and we're better than the man, right? So with you guys' perspective on this show coming to an end, and everybody I've talked to, when the show started to wrap up and they gave Danny either a movie or a TV show or one more season, he opted in for the movie. Do you guys remember what that feeling like was? And everybody's feelings would be individual, but what were you guys feeling like when you guys knew that you were coming to the end of the road with the Ed Boys?
I don't know. Like I had kind of stepped away from it for a while, and I wasn't very prevalent in the last couple of seasons because I had moved on to other stuff. But I do remember that there was a lot of buzz around it, and especially because Cartoon Network were talking about it being a theatrical release, so that was a huge, like whoa, like I get to be part of making a movie like that's like the next level, like of what we do, right? We were used to writing, little, these episodes for television, but a movie seemed like a grand, huge undertaking. It was very, very appealing. And I remember flying up to Vancouver, and Jono and I were trying to brainstorm and stuff. And I remember we were forced to watch It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. That was like a movie that was really, Danny wanted us to make, basically, you're going to sit in this room, you're going to watch this movie. And he wanted us to watch this movie because he wanted something like this. Yeah. And with him, it's like, it could be a rabbit running across the road at 1 hour and 24 minutes. And that's the thing he wanted, but we're supposed to figure that out somehow, That's how he works. So, so I do remember that. I remember being really excited though, like being like, this is cool. Like this is going to be a cool thing.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He really liked that movie, that old movie. It's a Mad, Mad, Mad. Three Mads World? Four Mads.
I think.
I saw it on Jeopardy once, and the person got all the Mads. But for people who don't know, that's like a bunch of people chasing after treasure. Like it's like a road film comedy, black and white.
What about you, Rachel? What was your thought process going into it when they said this is coming to the end and this is what we're doing?
I mean, it was two things for me really, because we'd done all these crazy things through up until season 6. And we'd really kind of like explored all different avenues of what we could do with the Eds, and we'd even gone into the secondary characters and like what we could do with them. So for me, it felt like we were finishing strong in a way, like like to do a feature length film. And yet I remember sitting down to watch It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and trying to like understand from Danny's perspective what he wanted, because I think obviously the car chase was a big aspect of it, but like each of the characters in that film were really greedy from what I remember, and like had like kind of nefarious motives. So it's like you see a lot of those kind of uglier emotions coming out in Ed and Eddy, obviously because the kids are just so pissed off and just like a really just like on a savage path after the Ed. So like so it was, for me, it just felt like we could really end it with a bang really. And then like I'm just, guys, do you remember like did it start out with Eddys Brother as like the kind of that we were building up to? Was that like in the initial draft? Because I know you guys mainly worked on the first draft together, didn't you?
We were going for the longest time. We were really trying to push the idea that at the very, very end of the movie, they get to the brother's house and he doesn't even exist. And then Eddy kind of has the moment where he's just like, he has to face all the other kids and admit he's been lying. And it was a huge emotional heavy fucking moment. And I know Jono and I at the time were really fighting for that, because we really thought that was such a great way to just see Eddy at his absolute like lowest point ever in his life. And it was such a strong thing. And we were kind of going towards that ending for a long time. And then suddenly Danny's like, nope, he's got a brother and we're gonna meet him. And it's like, oh shit, what do we do now? Because we were working so hard toward down that path, and then everything got changed, and it was quite a shit show, actually, from what I remember. Like the making of that script or outline or all iterations of it that it was a lot of work, a lot of rewrites and rethinks. And the beginning was really, we kind of really got the beginning, the whole all the neighborhood kids being more fucked up than they've ever been ever in the show, and no one knowing what really happened. Just you see the aftermath, and it's really dark and weird. That part just came out, like that was just, everybody was on board for that right from the get-go. But then I think the wheels kind of started falling off the car the further we got down the track. Shit just started going sideways, and nobody could land on anything that like they wanted, and it was a real chore from what I remember from that point going forward.
I seem to remember. No, go on, John.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, you're right. I remember the flip-flopping of the ending kind of threw a wrench into the process, because we were writing towards this idea that Eddy had made up his brother. Yeah. Because he was such an idiot and a loser and so desperate that he made up this whole older brother, and it was just a lie. And even Ed were like, what?
And that's the other thing too. In that moment, Ed and Double D are actually like, you're a dick. Like, you know, like, and it was like a real heavy moment. And then we were always struggling with turning it around. How do we turn it around, right? How do we get out of that, you know, and not leave such a bummer ending?
Yeah, and I guess Danny said no at some part in the process, and you're right, we had gone far down the road. He said, no, his brother's real. And then the writers were like, what? We're changing the end?
Yeah.
And then
after like 3-4 months or however months are like fully into it, really for it. Oh, movie now. What?
That was confusing.
Do you guys remember excuse me, do you guys remember how far after season 6 ended that they approached you and you guys found out about the movie, and then how long it took you to write and flush out that script?
Rach, that's probably, I wasn't even involved in the end of that season, or maybe any of that season. I don't think. I
was kind of gone too.
But the thing is, I think because I was kind of like, because I had season 6 to deal with, I'm pretty sure you guys started, I mean, God, we're talking like 13 years now. Yeah. That you guys went off with the first draft of what we were, you know, like the outline essentially. And then I think I just kind of shimmied my way in at some point, and like, yeah, just the whole thing was just like a bit of a dog's dinner to like trying to get it done.
Yeah, it was a blur. It was a lot going on.
Yeah,
that too.
I mean, just walking up to it, we had done, I mean, we did all those seasons right in the cul-de-sac. Yeah. So I guess before, at the end of season 5, Danny was like, I think we need to change something, because nobody knew what else to say about the cul-de-sac. So then it was decided to go into the school. And then I don't know whether he felt the school was not working, or maybe it was working, but you know what I mean? Like it was a, how did season 6 wrap up, Rachel? Do you remember?
It was it was still in the school, but it was winter. So we could do like kind of wintry episodes. Like they had like the safety episode, you know, the safety club episodes. Remember that one?
Right.
And they had like the school dance one, and My mind's gone completely blank. This is so
But
bad.
wasn't it really difficult to do the school when you couldn't have any other kids?
Because, well, you know what it's like, right? You know, when you're watching like a school, a film from the 80s set in a school, what do you see? You see a hallway full of kids on the way to like a classroom, or you see them kicking off in a classroom, throwing shit around. We obviously couldn't do that because we were confined to this really limited cast of people. Most we could do was like do stuff with like shadows and things like that. So we tried all these different techniques to kind of, do you remember all the stupid loopholes you used to do, Jono, where it was like, you know, you'd have shadows against the wall and stuff, or like
I don't remember.
I kind of do. I do too, because I remember one of the episodes I wrote in the school. It was one where Double D was trying to run the report cards home to their parents, Eddy's and Ed's parents, and it was like a mission impossible because they were like trying to sabotage him all the way. But he's in a classroom watching the clock tick, and I'm like thinking, wait a minute, how many kids are in there of our characters, and how many are the same age? Like, how many would be in the same class? Like, Jimmy and Sarah are too young, and that leaves what, like 4 people now, like 8 in a class. Like, it was so hard to wrap my brain around how that's gonna look. So I remember, Rachel, they did do shadows and kind of silhouettes and stuff like that to fill out some of the seats and stuff.
we
Go ahead.
We've gone a bit like M Night Shyamalan, because we were doing like sound effects off screen, like to the teacher with the chalk on the chalkboard and stuff. Like, so it was a lot of that stuff as well of what you couldn't see.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting to see where the movie picks up, where the show ends and where the movie picks up, because like you said, it was in that winter, set in that winter scene, and then you just go from Rolf being bitten in half, like he got into a fight with a shark, being chased by all of these kids, and then there's no snow, everything's obviously it's spring or summer, right? So when this movie picks up, when was the last time you guys had watched this movie? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, it's been a couple of years now for me.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time in 6-7 years, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot like how vibrant that show was, like just the colors, like it. And I don't know if it was because it was this the first time it was all done digitally? I know Danny had that stance of fuck digital art, but was this the first time from start to finish any Ed projects was done full digital?
Oh, they went digital after season 2, I think, just because it was so expensive. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I might not be right about that, but yeah, he had to, because that was just, we were the last show being done on cells. We were the last show to be done on cells on television, I think. Pretty sure.
Okay, maybe it was just the formatting then, because I thought you guys had done, like, I thought it was a slow transition between the seasons where you guys would do some digital, some stay. Like, god damn, you do some digital and then some of the traditional animation, but and probably smoked a little bit too much weed, Mike, and just don't remember where all of that shit happened at. But I mean, like I said, I remember when the movie opening up, and it was very just like vibrant, very beautiful. And then you start going around like, what the fuck did these kids do to make everybody so hot so quickly? Now, in your first run of the script, did you guys like, obviously it's a completely different movie from what you're saying, but did you guys define in the script what whatever they pulled over the cul-de-sac kids was and why they were so pissed?
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
We had to show the aftermath, and it had to be like, it had to be just terrifying. Like, and I remember the ants for some reason was really important, because it was kind of an homage to the beginning of the movie Blue Velvet by
David
Lynch, thanks. And there's a scene where it's like green grass and he goes under into the dirt and there's bugs crawling through the dirt, and we love the whole concept of, you know, there's this perfect cul-de-sac, and then we get to this underground thing where just horrible things are happening or have just happened, and that whole concept was just very prevalent in that opening scene. We were kind of really trying to capture that whole what is under the surface here and leave you guessing, right? Because that's the other beautiful thing about David Lynch movies in particular. You think about them for days later and you're, what the hell? You're like still trying to process it, right? So we kind of were, I remember that being really like a hot thing. Like we were really trying to go for that, like that kind of mood in the beginning scene, and really just be scary. Like it's pretty scary and doomy.
Absolutely.
I love that whole idea of that opening and
Yes.
the atmosphere of like the wheel turning
Yeah.
and no one's around and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, it's so good. I love that opening. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. No,
Did
I
you
bet.
did you guys ever watch? Now, obviously, this movie came out before Breaking Bad, but if you've ever watched Breaking Bad, it has those vibes whenever the show opens. Obviously, most of the stuff is black and white. It shows you this shit. It's like when, spoiler alert, the plane crashes in Breaking Bad, and then you've got all of this stuff floating in the pool. It's this ominous feeling of like, what the fuck is going on? Why is there a teddy bear eyeball sticking in? And that's the vibe I got, even though this movie, like I said, your movie was done before Breaking Bad. And I guess they had the same kind of thought process. Let's throw a little bit to David Lynch because he has this interesting way of opening up. And I think that's what stuck so hard for that movie for Ed, Edd and Eddy. It was like you're drawn in right away. You're like, this is not like any other episode I've ever seen of anything. Usually something's happening, something's funny going on, but like you were saying, you've seen a sense of dread, the scene angst, or you're like, fuck, dude, this is uncomfortable. Is this a really kid show? And then you start watching, you're like, oh shit, they're up to their same shit, but they really pissed everybody off. Like I said, you see all these characters just start chasing them. Now, obviously, with movies and TV shows is completely done differently. I'm assuming I'm a layman when it comes to you guys' jargon, you guys' terminology, but I got to imagine between working a format for a movie and working a format for a TV show are 100% different, right? What were some of the hurdles that you guys would go through when you're starting to flesh this idea out and trying to really get it onto paper?
Just the length of it and the audacity of doing we're writing 11-minute episodes and suddenly we're told to write 90 minutes and it all has to work.
Yeah.
And everyone has to have an arc and every character is important and they have their own journey. And it's like, well, you're a chef. Okay. What's it like cooking for 2 people or suddenly having to cook for 200?
It's easier for 200.
Yeah.
It's easier for 200.
We've got a chef in the room, guys.
Well, fuck you then. You just ruined that analogy.
Like it's a lot more stressful for 200, but just in the cooking side, it's a lot easier. Like obviously the time is going to be less for those 2 people than those 200 people, but when you can just do a big batch of fuck all and then you not have to worry about it, Vice doing 2 and
you can't do just one big batch. You have to do like suddenly you're doing like 15 different meals and then they all have to be good. And you're like, oh shit, I'm just, there's just the few of us doing this. It's a lot to take on. Plus, I mean, working with Danny alone is always poses its own set of challenges. So, there's a lot happening here.
What about for you, Rachel? You remember anything?
Well, when I was kind of struggling with it, like, because there's an analogy of like the soggy middle, like in a story where it's like, okay, how do we get from the beginning to the end? Lovely analogy. And I was like, right, so we've got the mad in the world element. However, when the kind of pace changes, there's got to be something else. And then, it was Stand By Me. The film Stand By Me. Yeah. And I remember Mike and Jono definitely talked about it of like, right, okay, so we've got they've kind of broke free of, we've got out of Dodge. So we've got to get a bit more intimate with what the Eds are actually doing and what they're talking about and where they think they're going. And I remember watching Stand By Me and going, I think this is the tone we need for Act 2. So yeah, I'm sure we had a discussion around that because I mean,
I remember
Mike
that.
said, like you're a Stephen King fan, aren't you, Mike? So like, I think you got it straight away when we spoke about it as well. So
yeah, this is true. I do remember that movie being an influence too, because we had to make a journey and we didn't want to we wanted them to have just like Stand By Me, just like kids walking and talking about stupid shit, right? And just having that total camaraderie. We're on an adventure, turning this horrible thing into a, this is going to be exciting and cool. This is going to be an adventure we're going on now. And I remember Rachel's right. I do remember we looked upon that movie a lot as kind of setting the pace for the middle part of the movie. Yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, because we had the beginning. Yeah, where the Eds do something horrible and everyone wants to kill them, so they flee the cul-de-sac. And we had an ending, you know, they go to Eddys Brothers for safety, but we didn't have that middle, right?
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
So I guess we struggled for a while with what happens, you know.
Yeah, daily.
Now obviously you were talking earlier, and then you said that you wanted to make it where Eddys brother was a figment. He wasn't real, and he would have to fess up, and then that was the emotional cross that Eddie would have to bear. You'd have to tell all of these people that for so long that he didn't really have a brother.
Yeah,
he was blind. Do you remember when or who that initially changed with? Was that a Danny, like, no, we can't do it? Or when you started flushing out the idea further, you're like, no, we have to have that reveal, and we have to make him be X, Y, and Z?
I remember on that, I remember having some conversation with Jono about it. I'm not sure if it was also with you, Rach, but I do remember having a conversation with Jono about how do we get out of that? How do we get out of that super bummer, horrible Eddie literally reduced to a pile of holding the mirror up to himself and going, I'm just an asshole, basically. How do we get out of that? And we were always like coming up and like, you know, running into dead ends. And then shortly after, I think Danny just decided, no, he's got to be a real guy. And that came straight from Danny. I don't think anyone else influenced that decision. We were all pushing for there to be no brother. We were all pushing for that because we thought that was, at least, and still to this day, to me, that felt like the right thing to do with Eddie. But
I think, didn't we feel that maybe when the kids saw how pathetic he was, that they would feel sorry for him and their anger would dissipate?
Yeah, I think that was it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. Now
That was it.
I starting to remember this a little bit better. Their anger dissipates. It starts to turn into a super like happy, touchy feely, everyone hugs. It was supposed to turn into like this super schmaltzy, lovey ending, and then the cops show up and they all get thrown in the fucking back of the
Oh,
and they're all taken away, and all we do is see their backs of their heads in the cop cars, and they're all taken away from all the destruction and shit that's happened in this moment. And I remember that. I go, oh my god, that's perfect, that's how we're gonna do it. Danny's like, nope.
Why? Oh, sorry, that's just hit me like a ton of bricks remembering that.
Yeah, I forgot about the police.
The police, and they're all in the back of the van and nobody's talking, like everyone's just pissed.
What could have been if we would have had that happen?
Oh, it was such a great ending. And
now I'm gonna ask each one of you individually. Now, obviously, all three of you think differently than one another, and everybody thinks differently than Danny, as well as the board artist and every other writer and everybody else that you've worked with. Now, obviously, everybody has their favorites as far as characters or cliques go. Was there any part of this movie that you guys didn't get in there, or you guys were fighting for, specifically for a character or a group of the kids, or some kind of plot line that you fought for that didn't make it in, that you wanted to make in?
Aside from that ending?
Aside from the ending.
Yeah, I don't remember, because I at least for me, I was a big part of writing like Act 1, and then I had to go back. I had to go back home because I had flown up there to kind of brainstorm with Rach and Jono, and then I kind of I wasn't directly involved in the second and third acts, but I remember getting phone calls and emails from both constantly, like, okay, what should we do? Like, we were collaborating at all times, even though I wasn't physically present. But I don't distinctly remember any one thing other than the ending. Like we said, we were so hot on that ending, and it just got tossed. And after that, it was just kind of like, well, you know, what does Danny want? You know, so kind of did what he wanted. So I don't remember anything specific. Do you guys?
I'm trying to remember the locations of Act 2. Like, I remember the mini golf.
Yeah, the field with the sunflowers, right?
Yeah.
I love that scene, actually. It's
very pretty. Yes.
Yeah, very pretty scene. There's some really cool visual things that happen.
That's where I noticed, like when I was talking about the color palette, it seemed so fucking vibrant when
Yeah.
Wilfred's in there hiding from Rolf, and then Sarah and Jimmy are in there hiding from the Cankers, and then they're both trying to get out and go their separate ways. I just remember looking around like, fuck, dude, this is Tarantino-esque as far as the colors, the visuals, and everything like that goes. It just felt like, man, it felt like you were there. Like you could smell those flowers, you could smell pig shit, you can smell Jimmy and Sarah and all that other shit. I know it sounds weird, but it just brought you in. It made you feel like you were a part of the scene. Now, obviously, you said you could. What's that? Go ahead.
I was going to say we should give props to Bonnie because she was the color stylist. I assume that was Bonnie's work.
Yeah, it was really pretty.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Bonnie. With that being said, and that, you know, being the second arc or the second half of the story or second part of the story, what was harder as far as transitioning? Was it that first, second, third as far as acts go, or was it, what was the most difficult part about this movie for you guys individually?
Well, Act 2.
Act 2 was a bitch. Yeah, I remember that. Act 2 was a constant struggle of trying to give everyone a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And keep the momentum. Like, keep the momentum going.
Because I think, like, because we sent them off to like a gag factory and stuff like that. So it's like trying to find like places that were obviously you could pass off as in the local area. Like, okay, they think they've gone for absolute miles and they haven't. They've gone about like 15 minutes down the road. But in kid miles, it's like ages away. So like with locations like that, it had to be obviously different, but there wouldn't be loads of people around. So, but obviously there was enough going on, you know, like that we could do gags like the snakes coming out the can and things like that. So yeah, it was just, it was that. And also I think it was interesting, like with Double D kind of freaking out of like, do you even fucking know where we're going? Like, why have you sent us off on this goose chase? Because I think that's how we felt inside, wasn't it, lads? So it's like, it was just like, that was our internal dialogue of like, where is this going?
Kind of felt like it. Yeah, once we were like, okay, this is a whole different movie. It's like, okay, we don't even know where we're going, let alone
Do you guys have any input as far as the producers are coming? Now, obviously, we've talked about Danny and where his stance was on the show, and it was his word, or it was his story to tell, essentially. But with the movie coming up, I mean, is there any of the outside influences coming in to try to help and mold this movie, or is this 100% AKA from start to finish and inside and out?
Yeah, just AKA.
Yeah, I figured as much. So
everything is done in house. Everything was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure. I remember, you know, Danny wanted it to be something cool, right? And he wanted them to leave the cul-de-sac and go to new places and break rules of the series, right?
Yeah, he wanted to break rules. He wanted to really have a surprise ending. We were always talking about some ending to, you know, screw everybody's minds up, you know, like, you know, I think that one time we talked about Double D being a girl or something, you know, and they find out at the end or something, you know, like we're just trying to throw everybody off. Like we have just radically like stuck a stake through the middle of this show, and then we're just dropping the mic and walking away. You know?
Yeah. I always like that idea that they pull Double D's hat off and all this long hair flows out.
Jono, why did you have to bring up the hat? That question was asked so many times. That question, and from doing this podcast, sidebar for just a second. From doing this podcast, there's been a couple people that I've had on as far as shows go. Ed and Eddy being one, and Cat Dog creator Peter Hannon being the other one. Where until I started asking for fans questions, I never once thought about what was under Double D's hat. Never, ever did I ever think, man, what's under that fucker's hat, man? Because he's got to be hiding something. Never thought about it. I was blown away by the first time I started getting fans questions, and literally the first 7 questions were, what's under Double D's hat, right? And then you switch over to Peter Hannon. If you guys ever watched the show Cat Dog on Nickelodeon, it's a dog and a cat conjoined. When I ask for fans questions, what do you think would be the first question asked? If you had to guess, a cat and a dog conjoined, what would you guys ask?
How?
Who are the parents?
No, that's pretty close, or not really close, but it's a good one. But Jono, what do you think you would ask if there was a cat and a dog conjoined together?
I don't know. I would ask, how did they get that way?
Beautiful. You would think
how
that
do they
would be.
move?
Thank you, fucking Mike Kubat, man. 100%. I had so many fucking questions over how does cat dog take a shit, and I'm sitting here thinking like, where the fuck have these people gone wrong in their lives? Who touched them? Who hurt them? Who yelled at them? To want them to know a cartoon fucking character that is fictitious. How do they take a shit? Right? Never in my wildest dreams does that ever come up to my mind. How do they take a shit? But nonetheless, it was asked, and it's the same thing with this one. And Jono, you just brought back the evil question. I'm going to get so many comments about why didn't you ask? Why didn't you ask? There's no answer. Nobody knows. If you ask Jono and you ask Mike and you ask Rachel, each one of them will give you a different answer to throw you off of what was really. It's just who knows? You know, that's what Danny wanted.
Mystery.
Yeah. Keep the people wanting more, right?
Yeah.
It's the number one rule of content creating. Keep them wanting more.
Because I mean, you know, you guys might feel a bit different on this one, but I feel like the moment you say, "Oh, it's this," someone's going to be disappointed. Someone's going to go, "That's fucking shit." That. Do you know what I mean? So it's, if you never ever answer that question, it can be open to interpretation forever. You know.
Did you guys ever get the chance to watch the episode I did with all three of the Ed boys?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it's good.
Tony had my favorite. He had my favorite what is under Double D's hat answer. He was like a giant dildo stuck to Double D's head. He takes it off
like
and
a
it's
rhino,
just
right?
Yeah.
Didn't he say like unicorn or something?
Yeah. And then what's crazy is the guy that's doing Peach Creek, George Abingdon, he's he animated that. And I don't know if he put the dildo on Double D's head, but he animated that whole little chat what was under his hat. So I thought that was pretty cool. But getting back to the big picture show, sidebar over. So we get to that second act, and we're seeing almost everybody's story start to come together. Everybody is getting close to the hunt. We're almost to the point where we're starting to see where Ed and Eddy go. First off, who did the, and you guys might not know, but who did the scene with the it was the boat that Double D put together, and it was the chicken that was bobbing in the water like you would have on somebody's desk that would bob. Who thought of that? Was that a writer or would that be an artist?
I'm
I don't know, but I would say it's probably.
I feel like that'd be a Scott thing, Jono.
It's gotta be Scott.
I think that's
no one else would come up with that.
I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was so funny. Like, because it's once the boat crashes, it's just bobbing in the water, and I'm sitting like, what the fuck is? I'm like, oh, this son of a bitch. Whoever did this is a goddamn genius. I was so elated to see that. I thought it was one of those things that not very many people would get. It would be a throwaway type of thing, but the few people that would get it was like, oh man, we really appreciate that scene. So I thought that one was really cool. But like I said, everybody's story is starting to converge. So all those little kernels or all those seeds that you guys started to sow in the beginning of this movie, they're all starting to come. Everybody's starting to find their purpose. You said this was the hardest part, trying to transition into this act to the final act and everything like that. Once you guys start to get there, is it easier at this point, or is it just as hard as Act 1 and Act 2 was?
The whole process is hard. The whole process is just, it's pulling teeth all the time. And yeah, that second act was really tough. I do remember struggling with it, and a lot of phone calls, a lot of face palms and head banging against your desk, and just really hard to get through. It's hard to think of individual things, because it felt like every idea we had, and every time we tried to push it in a certain way, we just kept getting pushback on it. And yeah, I don't know. It was tough. I just remember it being really, really tough to get through, like a slog to get through that, to get through that whole piece. And I didn't even do much of it. It was mostly Jono and Rachel at that point. I think there was another, wasn't there another writer?
Stacey. Yeah, Stacey.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I didn't get to work with her directly. I think you did, Rachel, and maybe you, Jono, but
wasn't there somebody else as well besides Stacey?
I know there was Stacey, but I mean, because I don't freaking know, to be honest.
Yeah. We might have brought in like one or two other people who were like, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from those type of questions because it is so long ago. The movie came out 13 years ago, but you guys were probably working on this a year or two prior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A year and a half.
So it's for sure, it's been some time, man. That's almost half of my life at that point. So I can only imagine all the shows that you guys have went to work on. It's all a fucking blur because I can't remember what I cooked 2 weeks ago at work, let alone what I did fucking 15 years ago. It's crazy. But I figure when we ask those type of questions, if we might not get the answers, it might trigger something down the road. Now, getting into, so we're starting to wrap this movie up. Obviously, we're seeing the kids all start to converge, and we end up in the like Eddys Brother is a fucking carny, right? So Eddie's just travel. Or did they ever say? I know they didn't, but was there ever kicked around the idea of Eddys Brother's name? Or was that just like the hat and just like the scam thing? It was something to be mysterious.
There might have been, but nothing that was ever committed to paper.
Yeah.
Again, it was just always, he was just this enigma to the end. You know, I mean, I don't know, Jono, was anything ever mentioned to you about a name?
I don't remember a name, but I do remember that at one point it had to be decided whether we were actually going to see him or not.
Yeah.
And whether he was actually going to appear on screen. And then did Danny do his voice? Is it?
Yeah.
Danny
Really?
No.
That was Terry Klassen.
Terry Klassen, that's it. Terry Klassen.
Oh,
that's right.
And he was the voice director. Yeah.
Beautiful. I didn't know that, man. You should read the credits. Is what I'm getting at. Hey, Jono, I didn't know that.
Can someone remind me, what did the Cankers do?
Oh, they as far as in the movie goes?
Yeah.
Okay, so they were trying to protect the Eds from the group of kids. So they originally had, it was like a very 300-esque. You remember when the guy in 300 came down and he had all the slaves carrying him? They did that to Jimmy and Sarah, and then Sarah smashes her toe with a paint can and they run off. And they originally get to the amusement park after they beat the shit out of Eddys Brother. Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen. After the group of kids beat the shit out of Eddys Brother, they take him into the trailer, and they said and the only reason I know all this is I'm not a super fan. I just finished watching this right before we got on again. So they take him into his trailer, Eddys Brother into his trailer, and they said the first one that makes it in gets to perform mouth to mouth on Eddys Brother as he's unconscious, being drugged. It was very rapey vibe, if you will. So, but if anybody could pull it off, it's the Kanker sisters. So that's kind of what happened with the Kankers. If I'm hoping that's the answer you were looking for, Jono.
No, because I remembered, I think it was Woody who came up with that idea that as the kids go after the Eds, the Kankers go after the kids.
Yeah,
to take them out.
Yeah, it was an interesting. I don't see how. Now, obviously, there's so many moving parts, and everybody had their little piece of this movie. I'm always amazed when you guys can start off with a story as simple as, oh, these kids are pissed, and these are who they're pissed off at, and then you take that little itty bitty kernel, right, and then you just spin this fucking tale that's wild. You've got all of these different characters that look different, think different, sound different. They're all competing for the same thing, beating the shit out of the Eds. And then you've got the Kankers that are trying to protect the Eds. And then you've got Eddys Brother in here. He's, the white whale, no pun intended, because it's what they refer to him in the movie. So all of these things are spinning, and it made it feel like, not once did I feel like this doesn't seem like a cohesive story, right? Everything has a
good
meaning.
Oh my God.
Woo!
Looking back, do you guys feel like it's out of place or shit's all over the place? I mean, obviously when you guys were going through writing, I'm pretty sure it was stressful as fuck, but after seeing it, do you guys felt like it worked really well together? It meshed?
I really like Act 1. I think Act 1 is super solid and just sets the whole thing up and really gets the ball rolling. I think Act 2 is a little bit wishy-washy.
So what you're saying is, as soon as you left, they all went to shit.
That is essentially what he's saying.
You guys hear that, Jono? You hear that, Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Well, we already had the whole opening, and Act 1 was basically in the can and already in, and we were going towards a logical conclusion in Act 3. So when everything got changed, when Danny's brother became existing, it kind of threw us all off. And I think the last time I watched the movie, which was a couple of years ago, I just remember that second act being a little bit, it's just not as strong, not as tight, not as good as the first act. And then, I'm still, I'll be honest, disappointed that, we didn't go with our endings. Like, we had a couple of really powerful, really emotional, and really funny endings. But they all involved, the brother not existing. And I still to this day think it's not my show. It's not my decision to make, but I think it was a wrong decision to make the brother an actual character. To this day, I still think we would have had a stronger ending if he didn't exist.
Yeah. What about you, Jono?
Well, I feel like we were learning, right? It was all the first time writing a feature length story for all of us. And I remember watching it years later and thinking, oh, I wish I could rewrite that knowing what I know now about feature writing, but didn't get back then. What do you do?
What about you, Rachel?
Sorry, Coobs, if I could make a little counterpoint, I actually did come round to the idea of Eddys Brother being real, and I'll tell you why. Because how many kids build up people in their family or from their childhood? Oh, they're the greatest. Oh, they've done such amazing things in their life. Oh, so close. Oh, God. And then they meet them when they're older, or they meet them again at a party or something. Go, this guy's a dickhead. Do you know what I mean? Like, who, and it can be a very pivotal moment for that kid, you know what I mean, of just realizing like what's changed with them, and actually this person sucks. And it's like I just kind of felt like that is something that so many people can relate to. I think we've all got someone in our past that's been like, we thought they were just like God's gift, and then like as we got older, it's like they were just dodgy as hell, you know what I mean? And I feel like, because it was also meshed with the fact that Eddy did have to fess up and go, I just made all that up because I wanted people to like me. Again, I just think that's something that's deeply relatable, and it's got that vulnerability that Eddy was lacking sometimes. And I think that kind of then led into the kids forgiving them. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, legit.
So
totally legit.
Who in your family, Rachel, were you talking about? Because you felt really strong about what does their name rhyme with? What does their name rhyme with, Rachel? Oh man. So as we start to transition into the fans' questions, before we do that, there is one thing I have to say is, like I tell you guys all the time, thank you for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it. And if it wasn't for you, Mike, you were the first guy that opened up my idea about this podcast as far as, hey, you should talk to some of the artists on here too, because they were really cool. I had thought about that, but I had assumed that, like most people, they just got more important shit to do than talk to me, right? So I never thought about it. I was like, I'll just message whoever I can, and if they respond, they respond. I won't chase anybody. I don't think I'll get as far as I have gotten in this past year. Because it was about a year ago that you and I talked for the first time.
Yeah, I believe so.
It fucking flies by quickly. In 5 days or 4 days, I can't remember. You're supposed to remember anniversaries. The only one I really remember is my wife's and I's wedding anniversary, because I don't want to get in trouble. But if it wasn't for, something like that, I don't remember dates is what I'm getting at. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had some of the best artists. And if it wasn't for you, Jono, man, you wouldn't have said, hey, you should really talk to Rachel. And if it wouldn't have been for you, Rachel, hey, you should really talk to Sabrina. You should really talk. You guys are so great about bumping each other up, or telling like, hey, I did this, but Jono did this, and he was great with this, and Sabrina did this, and Big Jim did this, and Joel did this. So you guys have really opened up a world of just this show to me, and getting to chat with you guys has been really fun over this last year.
I haven't talked about this stuff in years, so it's nice to bring it up and kind of remember it again, and I mean, it was challenging and there's a lot of heartbreak and tears, but overall, I mean, it's just something we did, and people love it, and it's still important to a lot of people. And like I've said many times, I mean, nothing makes my day greater than meeting a fan and watching their head explode when You know, they find out I had a hand in something that they loved as a kid, and it's just such an amazing, awesome feeling to see their joy and get to relive that with them. So yeah, I'm totally down.
Well,
I wish to God we had filmed like a documentary style the making of the show, because it would have been such a good documentary.
all of you would have been canceled out of your profession.
100%.
We would not be able to work in this industry anymore. But it wasn't even your fault. It just was the chaos around us. We were just caught in the storm all the time.
That it's definitely one thing I think needs to be done is definitely a documentary on AK, and I hope one day somebody does it. But like I said, man, I really appreciate you guys taking the time for me, and we got some really good fans questions. You guys are tied for, actually, you guys might have one more question than the most I've ever been asked as far as anybody goes on. Nice. Anybody that's come on. So we'll get to as many as we can. And we already know the answer to this one because I brought it up, but Ian wants to know, what was the original plan for the scam? Was there an original plan, or was it always to keep it mysterious?
Yeah, mysterious. We never knew what the scam was. We just knew that it had to be it had to be the scam to end all scams. Scamageddon, I think we want.
Scamageddon, yeah.
That's a t-shirt right there. That is a t-shirt, aka cartoons, man. Cash in on that one. Now, go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I could have sworn Scamageddon was actually the working title for the film at one point. I'm pretty sure it might have been. I could just be making that shit up in my head and not realize, but I'm pretty sure it was Scamageddon. That was the working title that we had.
Hey, man, I'll go down this rabbit hole. I'll say it was Scamageddon, and I wasn't there. So, but I very rarely do I like to do hypothetical questions, but they always lead down a road that's interesting. And each one of you, if you could have a hypothetical scam, if you could have made that happen, Jono, what would be your scam? Michael, what would be your scam? And Rachel, what would be your scam? So, Jono, you're up first. What would be your scam to set all these people off? I know I hate to put you in the pressure seat, but pressure does two things, Jono. It busts pipes and it makes diamonds. What are you going to be, a busted pipe or a diamond, Jono?
A busted pipe.
Oh, shit.
So is the question like, if that scam was real, what was it? Or
no. If you could make up a scam, hypothetically, if you could put that scam in there and that's what it would be, what would your idea for a scam be?
But it would have the same objective, which is to like piss off the kids.
Yeah, what would you want to do to piss off all the kids, Jono, is what I'm getting at.
Oh man.
It's tough because they all have such different motivations, right?
Yeah, like you'd want to characterize each element. Like Naz got this happen to her, and Kevin's bike got destroyed. And Bro's pig, is.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Let's just pick one character. So everybody take a character and think about it, and we'll come back to that one at the end. But pick a character that you would want to piss off so much that they would want to chase, and we'll keep it real Scooby-Doo. That's a throwback to Mike and Big Jim, Scooby-Doo fuck-ups. So, and some of these names are very funny. Moist Monkey wants to know, why was Eddys Brother brought on at the very end, and why did his brother leave? Obviously, you answered that with Danny said it had to be on there. He had to be in there. It couldn't have been a figment. It had to be real. But why did his brother leave?
Leave the cul-de-sac, you mean?
Yeah, I'm assuming why they meant from the cul-de-sac.
He's an older brother. He moved out of the house, as all older brothers and sisters do. So I think that was just a natural thing for him to leave. But he was a legend. Like Eddie we always played him to be this urban, the cul-de-sac legend. He was like this legendary dude. And I mean, I grew up in a small town. I knew guys just like Eddie's older brother, like that had this status around them, and they're like these legends in their little towns and stuff. And Eddie really played that. So, yeah. And then he again, we never planned on him existing until this happened. So that's why he just ends up showing up in the movie, because it was just it was Danny's choice.
I always feel like it had to do with Danny's youth as well. Yeah. Like he wanted to capture what life was like when he was young, and I feel like there's almost the 70s vibe sometimes
There was always a 70s vibe on that show though, because they were always doing things, and we were never allowed technology. Like no technology was ever allowed. He didn't want
Want to keep it timeless.
Data. Yeah, he wanted to keep it timeless.
Other than just picking a number, what was the significance of 62? Because you see it on his jersey, and I'm assuming, well, you're laughing, so there's got to be a funny story here.
Not really.
No. Jono, wasn't it just something that Wooty just latched onto 62?
It was the Storyboard Seniors. It was like Woody and Joel and Scott saying, and they wouldn't say 62, they would say Sissy 2. I don't know why. Everything would be Sissy 2. Like, let's have 62 lunches and Sissy 2 shoes on. There's no rhyme or reason.
Beautiful.
I don't even get it.
No, I don't know, but you know what? To this day, I still say I got 62 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Like, so it's 100% in my lexicon now. Yeah.
You know, I pull out a teaser trailer for every episode, and it's generally somebody asking a question or somebody singing a song. I feel like what you just said should be the teaser for this fucking episode. So this is
you got to understand that the boardroom, like the storyboard guys, especially the seniors that stayed there the entire production, evolved this whole like language and way of relating to each other that was theirs.
Yeah.
And they did all kinds of weird things to each other all the time. And then when a new board artist would come in, they would test them to see if they could do them to them. And
yeah, I've heard some of those stories, and I've had to cut out a lot of those stories. So quite a few of them have been very, very good. And I have, like, I won't tell the story, but Joel told me a story where I couldn't breathe for the first 3 fucking minutes of the episode. I was in tears, just ugly fat girl crying, I could not catch my breath. It was so funny. And he was like, "Hey, man, can we cut that out? Because I don't want to lose my job." And I'm like, "Fucking no problem, man."
I find you probably have that problem with doing podcasts about this particular show and crew of people that worked on it. I think
100%.
A lot. Hey, we got this really awesome story. Shit, we can't let anybody know that. We'll never lose again.
100%. I think you guys are the only ones that have asked me to cut out anything. The only time I cut something out is if I fuck up. So I'm trying to make myself look better. You know what I mean? So no, there's been a few people that have asked me to cut some stuff out, but
that was such a good impression of Joel, by the way. Like, I just when you did that impression, I was like, "I've gone Joel."
So Shavo here wants to know, what would the Eds be up to now?
Now they're kids or adults, or they're
let's say 15 years in the future. What are they doing?
Eddie's probably selling used cars, probably something like that.
Or drugs.
Yeah. You see, I think Eddy would be into social media, like he'd be into marketing. And I'm probably being biased because I'm in marketing. But I can see him doing like "Hey guys, it's Eddy on my mind," and like here's all the shit I'm doing today, and like
doing those what do you call
influencer.
Those like Tupperware, whatever they are, those tiered
infomercials.
Oh no, a pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Lululemon.
That's the thing, like just conning everyone into giving him money somehow without anybody else like getting anything out of it.
So Bernie Madoff, but animated. That's what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah, and a lot funnier and funny.
He would never reach that level. I mean, it'd probably be like, when you have like a local TV celebrity that does their own commercials.
Yeah.
That would probably be Eddy.
He's selling a George Foreman grill.
Yeah.
Mattress sale.
Yeah.
We're giving it away. Double D, what would Double D be doing?
Would he be a safety inspector at a plant or something like that?
Oh, that works.
Control.
He's QA for sure.
I can see Double D just being eternally in academia, like just signing up for one degree after the other. Like, no, gotta go back. Oh, gotta go to the next degree. And you're just fucking there to like till the age of 62, just doing another freaking degree. And like, yeah, I think you just like
fucking walls like certificates, like 80 of them.
Yeah, bless him. Yeah.
So Ed is the
so-
last one.
Ed,
He's a chicken wrangler for sure.
Ed's probably a storyboard artist.
Oh.
Yeah.
If one of the storyboard artists were Ed, who would it be?
Scott.
Oh shit! Shots fired.
yeah. Scott.
Yeah, I think he's still eating breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Maybe he gave it up. I don't know.
I am.
What's your favorite cereal there, Mike?
Oh God, it's the worst shit you can possibly eat, and it's always a toss up between Cocoa Krispies and Peanut Butter Crunch. I'm like,
Oh, it's not the worst shit. If you were gonna
Cocoa
say
Krispies.
anything other than Captain Crunch, man, I was just gonna delete you off this phone call. So
I do like the Captain,
Cancel
but
him.
peanut butter. You gotta go peanut butter. That's
Yes.
like that's the Captain with the plus on it.
goddamn right. Jono, Rachel, what's your cereal of choice? Jono doesn't seem like he eats cereal anymore. He's grown up for that shit.
I don't eat cereal anymore.
Unfortunately, Unfortunately, I am now that middle-aged woman who just wants to get back into her skinny jeans again. So I'm just eating like Special K quite a bit, but every now and then I'll treat myself and I'll have like Cocoa Pops or something like that. So yeah, that's my exciting life with cereal.
Dude,
Well,
I eat cereal every day, pretty much every single day.
Wow.
It's my treat.
Wow.
Addicted to cereal. Yeah. In
Wow.
fact, I for a while there, I quit like all sorts of things. I quit all foods. I quit booze. I quit sugar. I quit carbs. I quit everything. And the one thing I fucking craved more than anything wasn't booze, wasn't heroin. It wasn't nothing. It was cereal. It was freaking. I was jonesing for cereal so bad every day. I need Captain Crunch.
Were
man.
you snorting Captain Crunch or were you shooting it up in a fucking spoon? Just
True story. Anyways, okay, I digress. Go on.
But Rachel, I want to fit in my skinny girl jeans too. But I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat Special K. I'm just gonna continue eating peanut butter crunch. So, but that's neither here nor there. Orly_D. I remember hearing the parents would be revealed. I thought they would have been on the bus with Johnny. Was that cut?
I don't think we ever were going to show parents. That was just a hard rule from day one.
Mhm.
I think we showed Eddie's dad's hand one time, right?
Yeah.
Him,
Yeah.
big hairy freaking. And then Ed's mom, I think, grabbed him too, but it was just an arm.
Because it was supposed to be the world of kids, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the bus scene when Johnny was on there and you see all the parents. You only see them from the show, or I guess from the collarbones, the clavicle. We're getting real medical here. The clavicle down, you see them and it's very dark, like everything is gray and blue and purple. I thought that was a really fucking cool scene. And one of my favorite scenes in this whole thing, and I don't know if you guys will remember it, but it's when Johnny and Plank get on the bus and then it switches from I Go Downtown to Vengeance and it's Plank driving the bus. It was one of my favorite parts of that entire fucking movie, just Plank switching to Vengeance like he's Batman and just barreling down the interstate. I thought it was phenomenal.
Was Johnny as Captain Melonhead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Splinter was Plank.
Yeah, I remember there was lots of talk about a spin-off series of Captain Melonhead.
Yes. I remember that. Yeah.
It kind of made you feel like it was at the end of the movie because you guys did a Marvel end credit scene before Marvel did an end credit scene with Johnny down there and he turns into the Gourd and he's the villain. And we actually got a question about that here in a little bit. And I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? And I rewatched, I'm like, oh shit, that's what he's talking about. So that would have been an interesting Johnny 2x4 meets Melonhead meets Gourd with Plank and Splinter as a spinoff show. Where we at? Jared Salt 8 wants to know what was it like knowing you were working on the end of the show? We touched on that a little bit, but as you guys finished that script, what were some of the emotions you guys were going through? Was it just like, this is going to be the last time I get to see these people? Or was it like, man, I'm fucking glad that was done. That was the hardest shit I've ever done.
Relief.
Relief?
A lot of relief. Just like, that's in the can, like, yeah, relief. It was a struggle getting that thing done. But then, there was after the initial, like, oh my God, I'm glad I'm not like, this is not like occupying every, inch of space in my brain. There is that anticipation of seeing it when it's done, and, the process of it being drawn out and made and stuff. There's always, you want to see the baby once it's, born, right? So yeah.
What about you, Jono? What were you going through when you finished that up?
Well, I had had to leave the series because I had created a show with a friend of mine, John Eisen, and we actually sold it to a Canadian network with CBC. And so I was kind of like, it felt like it was time, because everyone had been, even though the series was 6 seasons, like people had been at AKA for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like,
99 to 2009.
It was a long time, and obviously it was a great time, and it was a great show. And I remember, maybe a year afterwards, Joel, there was a bunch of us together, and Joel said, "So, is that going to be the best show we ever work on in our life?" And everyone was like, "Yeah," like bummed out, because we all kind of knew that it was lightning in a bottle, and with the animation industry being as difficult as it is, having that, being on something of quality is difficult.
Yeah, I feel you, man. What about you, Rachel? What were you going through?
I think to kind of echo what Jono was saying, like, with the actual show and the characters themselves, as much as I deeply loved all of them and loved working in this world and stuff, I just felt like we'd, and I've said this a few times, I feel like we'd kind of wrapped it up as strongly as we could, and we'd covered all this different ground and stuff. So it was kind of bittersweet of like, I feel that we're doing the characters justice, but also it is going to be kind of sad to put this, put these toys away essentially. But I think what I was sad about was, as Jono was saying, knowing that when this wraps, we're all going to go our separate ways, and it'll be quite difficult to, get that magic in the same room again, if that makes any sense. So like, this was kind of like, it was just the perfect storm of just the right group of people who all got each other and all worked so well together. And it was wondering if that would happen again, or how would you recapture that kind of thing? Because I don't think anyone like actually set out to create that. It just kind of happened organically.
Gotcha. Well, I got to imagine, like Jono was saying, 10 years is a long time to spend with somebody. It's unheard of for an institute. Like, obviously you'll have, I don't want to say a revolving door, because it makes it sound like nobody wanted to work there, but you would have some people that would come in, wouldn't last long, and they'd be right out there. But the core of you guys were there for fucking 10 years, man. Like I said, hats off to you guys and everybody at AKA. Very rarely do you ever see that anywhere these days. Whether it's, I work in a restaurant, and I've been working here for almost a year at this place I'm at now, and between me and my chef, we're the only two people that have been there for a year that started out whenever we would do this huge shift over change. So many people come and go. So, it's crazy to think that this might be the last time that we ever see a studio last that long with all the same pieces, man. So like I said, hats off to you guys. Did a lot of great work, during that time. Jim _ the paint can wants to know. I really feel like that'd be a Big Jim Miller name. You know what I mean? Big Jim the paint can. Was there any cut material? Now, we talked about this a little bit too, but maybe something that jarred around. Was there any cut material from the film that was going to be released at a later date? Do you guys know of? That was a pretty frequent question as well. If there was anything that was cut that was later going to make it on the like the behind the scenes or extra credits or deleted scenes. Yeah. You made it sound so official too, Rachel. Thank you for that. I'm sitting here bumbling like, oh, the director's cut. Look at this idiot over here.
One in mind all these years. Would you like to see it? PC together for us.
Yeah.
4.5 hours long. It's the definite version of the movie.
You're gonna piss so many people off.
It makes you wonder, though. Is there some footage that got cut?
You know who would know? We wouldn't know, but Dan Seaweed would know.
Yeah, don't see, but no.
Dan Seaweed could answer that question. So whoever Big Jim _ the paint can, he needs to reach out to Seaweed. Make sure that happens.
Beautiful. All right. He's got another part of this one. And this one's funny because I just thought it was a cool little ending. We just talked about it a little bit with Johnny, excuse me. Why did Johnny not get a happy ending? And was Plank Johnny's evil side? And did he give in and become a villain?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if that spinoff series happens, does he keep up with that villain, the Gourd, and Plank being evil, or what do you think?
Well, it was never developed, but I think just off the top of my head, it would be he fighting himself.
Yeah.
He's both. He's the villain and the good guy, and it would be every episode. It's like Two-Face. He just
turns it on and off.
Fighting himself all the time.
But why didn't he get a happy ending like the rest of everybody? Was it just to push a plot line, and that was the possible end? The end goal was him getting his own series, so they had to give, some kind of backstory to it, maybe.
I don't remember it. You? Is it
no.
Anybody?
But so what? All the other kids got a happy ending?
Yeah, because they beat the shit out of Johnny at the end because, at the end when all the other kids reconcile with Eddy because they see him, they see his brother beat the shit out of him essentially.
Right.
So Johnny wasn't there when that happened. So nobody had a change of heart. It was like the Grinch. His heart grew 3 sizes too big or whatever that shit was. That's not me shitting on the Grinch. I like the Grinch movie, but I'm just using that as a reference. But Johnny doesn't see what happens to Eddy. The other kids do, and that's when they stick up for him. So they beat the shit out of Johnny because he was trying to beat the shit out of the Eds. So he doesn't have a happy storybook ending like Eddy and the kids did.
Oh, I think Danny just wanted the kids to defend Eddy for the first time in his life against someone, and it was like, well, make it
beat the shit out of Johnny.
It's a cartoon.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Deep into it. You can't have the truth.
This fan base is one of the most rabid fan bases I have ever seen, both good, bad, and indifferent. I've had, with the exception of, and I've never had anybody from My Little Pony on. There's nothing wrong with My Little Pony, so that's not what I'm getting at. So please don't fucking tweet me about this shit. But there's nothing wrong with My Little Pony. It wasn't made for me. I know there's bronies out there. That's cool. No. I don't want any smoke from those guys and gals. But I've never met more pieces of shit, right, than fans of this show. And not all of them, just a select few. And the My Little Pony crew, those two fan bases, I don't know what the fuck it is, but these are the people you want to go into war with. These fuckers are ride or die. And like I said, some of the most mean motherfuckers I've ever met in my life have been Ed and Eddy fans. But that's neither here nor there because I'm having a great time. How about you guys? So please.
I'm going to sound so Pollyanna right now, but I've honestly only ever met the nice Ed and Eddy fans. I've been fortunate and not had the dickheads rock up and bother me. Everyone I've spoke to has been like, so far really nice and really cool and just like really into the show and stuff. But yeah, you seem haunted, Julian. It seems like you've had a bad experience.
We'll be right back. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Simon's Ups, I'm assuming, or Simon Sups wants to know. And we were just talking about this with Johnny, but what would the Gourd, that was the evil villain that Johnny turned into at the end of the movie, what would his powers and abilities be? And would Captain Melonhead win in a fight against the Gourd? Another hypothetical, but I feel it's like a good one. Yeah.
I feel like this is a Big Jim question because I get the feeling Big Jim was involved with the Gourd stuff because I would say, I don't know, like, Jono, do you get that feeling as well? Like, because Jim's very much into his DC and stuff.
Yeah, Jim, I think, was the driving force behind Melonhead, and because he was a comic book guy, yeah.
So who would win? Melonhead or the Gourd?
Melonhead, of course.
Yeah. Of course, Melonhead.
What about you, Mike? You gonna agree with them, or are you gonna go against them? You gonna say the Gourd?
Gourd.
Fuck yeah.
Edgelord.
So
This is
what
how
would
the
his,
brawl happened in the writers' room.
No one defeats Splinter.
no, he's undefeated.
He's-
He's like the internet. He's undefeated.
He's like, you know, the Green Hornet and Kato. Like everybody knew Kato could kick everybody's ass.
So what would his superpowers be? If you could pick one superpower, each one of you, but if you could pick one superpower for the Gourd and one superpower for the Melonhead, Jono, what are you picking for each one?
I don't even remember. What the hell was the gourd? Was
He
it just
He just literally is the same thing as Melonhead. Instead of taking a watermelon where he cut it in half, cut out some eyes, he took one of those Thanksgiving gourds, cut it in half, and he just looked evil and shit. So that was the only thing. And he had a cape on. So
somebody else go first?
okay, Rachel, you're into comic books. What is pressure seat, man? So what is Melonhead getting for a superpower, and what is the gourd getting for a superpower?
The god has the power to, oh god, basically, fuck, you put me on the spot. I think he'd have the power to just make everyone really bummed out and just make them all withered and like, you know, like really just depressed and unmotivated and just make them feel constantly hungover all the time. I think that would be his power, just like instant hangover. So I think that would be the god. Downer. Yeah.
So what about Melonhead?
Oh, come on, you two, why don't you two answer it? I don't know.
Mike, what's Melonhead got?
Melonhead's got a machine gun watermelon seed.
Ooh.
Mouth spit, where he can shoot seeds like miles with deadly accuracy.
Now you're talking seed, watermelon seed, correct? We're not talking. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Or any melon, whatever. He's Melonhead. If a melon has a seed, he knows what to do with it. It's kind of like an expert marksman, except he's that way with seeds.
So he's dead shot, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And the gourd special power is confusing everyone because he's always out of season.
I think I've got one. With Melonhead, it'd be like some kind of crazy like macrame ability where he could just like make lethal like macrame weapons or like, you know, traps and things. Like I think he'd just be like a bit of a hunter in that way, when he could just set traps for his enemies and stuff out of like elaborate macrame.
Like, yeah, he could set traps. He'd be very like skilled at using nature around him.
Yeah.
Well, he's Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Anybody, yeah, it puts the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. Jono, you're up next, Jono. What are you doing?
Oh, I was going to say, don't these people realize that writers agonize for days to come up with these?
I know, that's why we're putting you on the pressure sheet now.
Come up with them. I was going to say something more subtle, like the gourd. The gourd has the ability to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, makes you want to shit your pants, huh? It's like diarrhea. It just happens.
Like it just stares at you until you're like. Oh.
Johnny's just reminds me the one time I got really annoyed with Ruth Vincent. Ruth, who was one of the producers, and she's lovely. I was really struggling with like getting a deadline done, and she went, "I just don't get your problem. Why can't you just sit down and write it?" And I was like, "First of all, how dare you suggest I just sit down and write it?" And like, I got really shitty with that. Like, I don't understand.
So Gore's making everybody feel uncomfortable. Jono, what's Melonhead got?
Oh, besides his seeds?
Yeah, man. He can't be a one-trick pony.
Oh God, Melonhead probably talks too much and drives you insane.
He's got those crazy monologues.
By not shutting up. I'm just picturing Johnny.
Yeah, he's got a pretty irritating voice.
You guys talk about Johnny, about me. Just like doesn't shut off and doesn't annoy him.
Beautiful. Bites_za_ducka, I think. What made you go with the road trip for the plot? Was it that it wasn't Blue Velvet. What was the
Mad World? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of based on that journey of everybody just scrambling, trying to get to the same thing. Yeah. Okay. And we had to move, like it always had to move, right? We were mandated to take it out of the cul-de-sac. So it had to be a road trip.
Beautiful. SNES Forever wants to know, Did any of the voice actors have any input, considering that it was the final Ed installment? And what I mean by input, or what I'm assuming they mean by input, did they have anything like, hey, you know, maybe we could do something like this, or say my character could say something like this in the movie since this is the last one, or was it all Danny again?
No, I mean, shit, by the time the voice actors got the script, it had already been through the process. So we never collaborated with the voice actors. In fact, the only time I've ever done that was just relatively recently with the show I was working at Disney, because I know one of the voice actors, and he does the voice of Donald Duck, and unfortunately he can't say certain things. So when I was doing dialogue, I would hit him up via text and go, hey, can you say this sentence? And he'd be like, do his Donald Duck voice and say, yeah, I can totally do that one. All right, cool. And then I would put it in the script. Because I mean, you know, I don't do the voice, and it's very, very difficult. But other than that, I don't think that ever happens, ever, you know.
Beautiful. Golden Turtle wants to know, did Eddys Brother actually work at the Lemon Brook Gag Factory, or was he just a regular? Now, before you guys answer that, when I heard Lemon Gag Factory, the first thing I thought of was like, I don't know if that's a gag factory or a gag factory. You know what I mean? I didn't know if this was a sex shop, because every time you hear about Eddys Brother, you think like, oh, he's greasy, right? He's that dude that's going to the 7-Eleven to get the Playboys, like that type of shit. You just look like you smell like bologna and wet paper. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe I got off.
Really good, lads.
Yeah. But do you guys think he worked at the factory, or was he just a regular customer?
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Either would work, right? Because either's intriguing, right? Like it would work if that was like a job, his first job. It would kind of make sense because he's a bit of a prankster, I guess, because it would make sense for Eddy as well. But
you know what? Given his family, I think he probably would work there, because then he could just steal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like he could take stuff.
Yeah, and it would fit his personality. Yeah.
What about you, Rachel? You think he works there, or is he a customer?
I agree. I think he worked there. I think he strikes me as the kind of guy who's got a kind of I'm going to put it like versatile work background. There's probably just just taking random jobs and stuff like that. But I can easily see him working somewhere like on a production line or whatever. So yeah, and as Mike and Jono was saying, ties into him being a prankster. So yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. Where are we at here? Nuka Clips. Rachel, you already answered this one on Twitter, but I'd be remiss not to ask this one. So Mike and Jono, but I want Rachel, I want you to give your answer too, just in case nobody saw it, because I about fell out of my chair with your response. What did the Canker's house smell like? Rachel, do you remember what you told him?
I don't. Do you have it? Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, I got it right here on Twitter. I'm at that pause. So Rachel's answer to what the Canker's house smelt like was hairspray and axle grease and May's mean bathroom deodorizer. And I just told these ladies and gentlemen here, for the fans that are listening, that I thought she said anal grease, and I fell out of my chair laughing because I didn't know anal grease had a smell. But when I read it again, I was like, oh, she said axle grease. So hairspray, axle grease, and May's mean bathroom deodorizer is what the Canker's smell like. The Canker's house smells like. Mike, that answer goes to you. What does the Canker's house smell like?
Boiling hot dogs. Cheap perfume. And wet dog.
Nice.
That's what I'm going with.
Jono, what does the Canker's house smell like?
Yeah, I was thinking bacon too, like some cheap deli meat, like hot dogs. And there's got to be some mold in there, because I feel like the carpet is moist and
it just smells like asbestos. You're like, man, this really smelled like it's the 90s again.
Like anytime you wear white socks and walk across the carpet, they're dirty by the time you get out of the rain. You know, that kind of thing.
They're for sure a shoes on kind of people when you walk in the house. I always thought it was the same thing as you two thought, was it smelled like hot dog water in there and it smelled like nicotine. That's the first thing I thought.
Oh yeah.
Oh, ciggies, of course.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore.
Well, it depends on whose house you go over to, because some people's houses I've been over to, it's a thing. Hot dog smell and all. Nikki wants to know, was it always planned by Danny, at least, and obviously you guys can't talk for Danny, but I got to imagine that this has come up in some stories, to end the Big Picture show with the Eds finally being accepted by the kids of the cul-de-sac? Was that always in there, that they had to be accepted? No. Beautiful.
No, it went through a lot of different iterations before it ended up landing on that. So it was a process. Like I said, we wanted that wah ending, right? And fuck you to all the fans kind of ending, just to rile them all up. But yeah, Danny kind of came in with the no, I want this to be a happy ending. And in retrospect, I guess that kind of makes sense, because you would expect all the things we wanted to do from Danny. The fact that he actually had a heartwarming ending that ends on a positive is totally not like him to do so. So, I mean, I could be wrong. What do you two think?
I think I agree with you that he wanted to upset expectations, to not fool people, but surprise them.
Yeah.
And plus, the whole, like you're saying, the whole series is the Eds just getting frustrated and never learning, right? Over and over and over again. Nothing changes, right? The kids just hate them constantly. And so they're, what's the only thing we haven't done? Well, a moment of sympathy.
Yeah.
But we can do it right here because it's the Ed. So
it was cool, because it's another, I don't want to say it's a throwaway scene, because it makes it sound like it doesn't have a place in there, but it's not something that was a focal point. But when they're carrying the Eds at the end of the movie, they're like, oh man, it's that feeling like, oh, we did it, we're their friends now. And then you see Double D turn to the camera, and it's like, oh, it only took us 134 episodes, four holiday specials and a movie, but we got it. Right. So you're like, oh shit, man, there was that little nod in there to just them getting just ragged and drugged the entire series. And then they finally, not to get their comeuppance, but they definitely get their, like, this is what it's like to feel like the hot chick, right? So man, everybody loves me right now. So it was a sweet little moment for me, at least. But what about you, Rachel? Did you ever have that feeling?
No, yeah, I mean, I agree. I was happy that they finally got their acceptance and things like that, because again, I think it goes back to, I know I keep going on about it, the human experience, but it's like the fact that deep down, all awkward tweens want to be accepted for who they are, and warts and all, and the Eds finally got that. And I don't know, I just felt like it was a nice, sincere note to end on.
Yeah, and everybody can relate to it, because everybody wants to be liked. Everybody wants to be appreciated by their peers. Everybody wants to be accepted in whatever realm they go around, or whatever circles they hang out in. Everybody just wants to be accepted and loved for who they are. So, I think that's why this fan base is so, like I said, rabid. Everybody loves this show, because everybody can point to themselves and be like, man, I remember when I was a Johnny. I can't say I can remember when I was a Rolf, because I'm weird, but I'm just not Rolf weird. So everybody can pick these characters, and you find similarities in them and yourself, and then you can kind of sit and you're like, oh fuck, I can feel for that character on a different level. And I think that's why this cartoon speaks to so many people, and has spoken to so many people for so long. So yeah, I definitely agree. Everybody wants to be loved. I don't even know where the fuck we're at right now. Oh, we're not on this one anymore. In your opinion, what do you each feel, what do you each respect of most about Danny as a man and as a showrunner? Rachel, we'll go with you first. What do you respect and appreciate the most about Danny as a showrunner and a man?
Mainly just his tenacity, I suppose. I know his journey through animation was very difficult, and there were a lot of hurdles, and I know when he was younger, He struggled financially to make a lot of things happen, and not everyone would have really put themselves through a lot of stuff that he put himself through, and his peers put themselves through. So I would say he's a very good example of someone who persevered.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? When you think about Danny Antonucci, obviously you got a different relationship with him because was it your brother? We're him and we're friends, and that's kind of how you got.
Yeah, I came into this already being friends with him, so I kind of had a different entrance into this as far as everybody else. But yeah, like Rachel brings up, I mean, he really, the one thing I like about Danny is he never gives in. He's like a true artist. He will never sell out. He will never do anything that goes against his principles or his whatever that is. He's very, very, to the point of, I would almost say stubbornness to the point of stupidity a lot of times, because he's burned a lot of bridges for this reason. But he's relentless. The guy is freaking relentless. He will never give in, and he will never let anyone tell him how to do his vision. He just won't. He's and out of that, and he's also very hard. Like, he's a hard guy to work with, but he does things of quality. So, it was difficult working with him, always very, very difficult working with him. But coming out of working with a guy like Danny Antonucci, no one can touch you. Like, you're never gonna, you're ready for the world. Your skin is this thick and you're ready for anything. And I always give him a lot of admiration and respect and props for kind of conditioning me and making me, the person that I am today in this industry. He was hugely influential that way for me. So yeah.
Beautiful. Jono, what about you?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. He has an amazing bullshit detector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
And he would wield it often. Like, even in regards to stories and ideas, right? If you came up with something that was crappy, he'd let you know that it was crappy, and then you'd be like, yeah, I guess it is. But he's also, had an eye for talent. Like a lot of the board artists that ended up working there, the main people, they started out as like newbies, board artists that were just starting. Right. But he would the AKA would get a lot of test boards in when it started up, and he would be really like amazing at picking the most talented people. Like there was nobody in AKA who was floating along. There were no freeloaders in AKA.
No coasting.
Yeah, you had to have chops, or he would he would find you and throw you out, right? So that was an amazing trait too. And one thing I didn't appreciate until later was that because he fought for the artists and the art, he had to battle the producers and the network people, right? Constantly. Because in the animation industry, there's all kinds of forces coming from the producers and the network that try and get their fingers into the creative process and wreck it with
awesome results.
Yeah. And you need somebody to fight them. Yeah. And in that sense, he was like an icebreaker, like the metal part of the icebreaker, 5 inches thick, slamming through the ice of the industry. And we were all in the back. Like he made this little bubble where we could be free,
And there's a lot of truth to that, because after going from that show to other productions, I was appalled that no one, like, so many people didn't care if it was like any good or not, what we were doing. Like,
Right.
Where the fuck am I? Like, what isn't that your goal every time? Like, it was just, there was no standard, like within the group, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the bar was never impossibly high. It was always, you know?
But I think you need somebody to fight.
Yeah.
Because there's this constant pressure to sell out constantly at every level of the show. And he was there going, nope, we're not selling out on color. We're not selling out on voices. We're not, you know what I mean? Like, and you need, and that's what I mean by, you know, constantly battling, fighting for the art of the show.
Fighting for his show, fighting for his vision, and fighting for us too. Fighting for our ideas too. So that's admirable.
It really is.
Most people don't have the guts for it, you know. They just they give up.
No one would tell the president of Cartoon Network to go F themselves. You know what I mean? But he would. He would.
And
he would sit daily.
that is one thing I absolutely love, because I've had this talk before, and in any line of work, you know, you got to work for somebody unless you're your own boss. But even then, you got to pay somebody so you don't go to jail, right? You got to pay your taxes. So nobody is 100% free. However, when you have people like your Danny, and I used to work for this guy. His name was Alex, and he worked at my last restaurant. He's a sous chef there. Him and I didn't see eye to eye. We did not. He didn't like me. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I've got a temper, sure, no problem. But I'm the first person to admit when I'm wrong. Everybody else will tell you differently, but I'll sit there and be like, no. I try to apologize because I don't like being right. Or I love being right. Excuse me. I don't like being wrong, but I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong and apologizing for it. So when you have somebody that goes to bat, like a Danny or like an Alex, right? So I was having to do this thing, and I was like, hey, you know, the other chef told me I have to do it this way. And he's like, well, you work for me, and I'm telling you to do it this way. If he has a problem, you can come and talk to me. So needless to say, I do what he tells me to do. I was super skeptical of what would happen if, you know, the first chef would come in. Of course, that first chef, his name is Nick. He comes in, he starts yelling and screaming at me, calling me. He was only this fucking big. He's a little guy. I'm 6'2.5". Very proud of that, 1/2 inch on my height. So I'm 6'2.5", and I'm having to like look down while somebody's looking up and trying to make me come down to level. He was just in a bad mood, essentially. And Alex hears this commotion, and he goes, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you yelling at my guy? And he was like, I fucking told him to do it this way. And he's sitting there telling me some bullshit about you telling him to do it the other way. He's like, well, yeah, I fucking told him to do it that way. If you're going to have an issue, come talk to me. We'll go talk in the back. And I was like, holy shit, that dude's an asshole, but he just stuck up for me. And instantly right there, I don't give a fuck what this dude asked me to do, short of fucking running out into traffic, butt naked, trying to get hit by a car. I would do anything for this dude because he's asking me to do it, because you don't have that, right? Like you were just saying, you don't have somebody sitting there saying, no, man, this is our story. They're doing just fine in the writing. They're doing just fine on the art. Fuck off, essentially, is what I'm getting at. So it's beautiful to see that that's still happening. And it's beautiful to know that there's still it's not still happening, dude. I'm talking about with him. I'm talking about with him. So yeah, I'm not saying it's happening in the industry. Yeah, I'm not saying like happening in the industry, but like I've had that, like there's still people out there that will do that will fucking lay down on a sword. Sure. You know, it's very few and far between, but it's refreshing to see and hear that there are still some people out there that will go to those lengths. Getting back to the fans' questions. Looking back at it now, and we've touched on this, but we'll bring this back up again, and we'll go a little bit deeper. Looking back at it now, would you change anything about the finale, small or big? Was it a perfect ending for you? For me, it was. Now, obviously, we've had to talk about the getting thrown in the paddy wagon, or it being a figment. But looking back on it now, do you still think it works? Obviously, Mike, we heard your answer earlier. You like the other ending better. But Rachel and Jono, do you feel like this is a perfect ending for this show, or it should have been different?
Rachel, you want to go first?
Ooh, Rachel. Pressure seat.
I'm sorry. No, I genuinely, I wouldn't change it. I think because so many bloody talented people worked on this and put their heart and soul into it, that I feel like it would just be a house of cards of like, you change one element and the whole thing will just fall on its arse. That's how I personally feel. Like, I just think it managed to come together really well, considering all obstacles that I came up against. So I personally would, leave it the way it is. But these guys were there. They were our day oneers, so they may have a different opinion than me on that.
Yeah. What about you, Jono? Would you change anything?
I don't think I would change anything. I do like that alternate ending where the police come. I totally forgot about that because I think it was somebody called the parents or somebody or the parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody called the parents and then the parents show up with the cops and it turns into a police procedural right after that.
Right. Because they'd all been missing for days. I mean, that would have been a funny ending too, but maybe it's better that it was, a heartwarming ending.
Yeah.
I almost felt like I know we've talked about this too, Mike and Rachel and I, that it would be fun to do another episode, like a one-off.
Yeah.
Just a 30-minute and just make it like an ordinary Ed show. Just kind of revisit it. Like there's still summer.
What would it be about?
Oh, I don't know. I think we probably have some old ideas that never got done, I mean just like a regular episode.
Just a one-off, just one episode and that's it.
Yeah. Just nothing, not a special.
You know how pissed people would be? They'd be happy that it's out. They're like, oh man, I can't wait. I'm like, no, that was it. It's done. One and done. They're like, fuck you. Just pissing every nerd off in their basement.
It would kind of make sense for this show though, because
it really would.
Was kind of the attitude we love our fans, but we also love to rile them up.
Yeah. So John Lopez wants to know, what was it like finally writing for Eddys Brother?
I don't think I wrote any of his lines. That would be you two. I don't think I did any of his dialogue.
I can't remember.
Yeah. I'm wondering if any of us actually wrote his dialogue, if
I think that was.
Wrote it.
I think it was Danny. I think Danny went in and wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He got really personal with that character. Like that was his character, and I was surprised actually when I saw the character because I didn't even imagine him to look the way he did either. Although I think there was talk about Eddie's older brother looking like Danny, like a cartoon, like a cartoony version of Danny.
Why was that character so special to him?
I don't know. I don't know. He was really pushing for the existence of this character.
Now, with that being said, with the way he looked, with the way he finally ended up looking, did he look like anybody that you might have remembered from, growing up and hanging out with Danny?
I always thought he kind of looked a little bit like Danny. Kind of had a little bit of that Danny's vibe on him. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was intentional, but I don't know. I wasn't involved in the process. I don't think us writers were really a big part of that character, the development, or even the dialogue, or what was happening with it, because it just got kind of it. And I could be remembering this wrong, but it felt kind of like it was just tacked on to the end there because just everything took a different course,
Billy Bob wants to know. This one's kind of deep. What was the inspiration / mindset behind the more serious topics and plot points, like Eddie's abuse, the strange / more challenging aspects of the Eds friendship with each other, and the tension between the Eds and the other cul-de-sac kids?
We were just trying to push everything much farther than it ever had been pushed before, because we had a vehicle to do that in, and that was all of the above. The relationship with the kids, they fucked up worse than they ever have ever. So and then they're on this journey and they're kind of getting on each other's nerves. So they're always like kind of messing with each other, but it was like taking all those things and plussing them and pushing, see how far we can get with their emotions and the relationships that they have with each other and the other characters. So we had a movie, so we could go a lot farther than we could ever before. We had a vehicle to do it in. So that was probably the main motivation, pushing everything further than ever.
Beautiful. What about you, Jono? Did you, well, when you guys write these things, and I'd like each one of you guys to weigh in on it, but whenever you guys write something like this, obviously everybody has a bad day and they try not to take their days home with them, right? Everybody's had a bad day at work and they're in a bad mood when they get home. Whenever you're writing something like this, like the abuse with Eddys Brother, you know, like they were saying, with the strain on all of the different friendships that the Eds were going through, do you guys ever absorb this type of shit, this type of writing, or is it easy to kind of like push off and not have to worry about because it's fictitious? What about you, Rachel? Do you, whenever you start to write this kind of deep, dark shit, does it come home with you, or is it hard to shake?
I mean, yeah, but like when I really get immersed in something, it's very hard for me to shake off. Like, you know, Mike will tell you, I've been writing this freaking book series for like years and years, and there would just be days where I couldn't think of anything else because I'd just be so in the skin of these characters and like, you know, where they were going and stuff. And I would say it would be the same for the Eds a lot of times, of like, you know, what direction we were taking them in, and you know, snapping awake, you know, it's like snapping awake at 2 o'clock in the morning and like just fumbling for like a notepad and just like writing utter gibberish down. But in that moment, you're like, oh my God, I feel this so deeply. And then you wake up and it's like the pan is broken. You're like, what's that? So, yeah.
What about you, Mike?
You know, a lot of the best stuff, as far as writing, I guess, comes from your own personal experiences. So if you can inject, like if you're looking for something dark, well, you kind of try to look for something dark within you and inject it into what you're doing. But you know, it wasn't so much when you're getting into the characters' heads, getting in and out of the characters. They're still characters. It's a lot of times where the darkness comes in is just in the process of trying to get it done, right? And you know, there's times when you're struggling with a lot of this stuff, and it's not going as well as you would like, and you really start to question your abilities. You start to question your judgment. You start questioning your talent. So yeah, but as far as getting the characters, getting in and out of characters, unless I had to inject my own kind of feelings and emotions into it for a particularly dark or dismal scene, but you know, at the end of the day, like Rachel said, it's a cartoon.
Yeah,
this isn't real. Like, you know, so you can get in and out of it pretty quick.
What about you, Jono?
I never thought of the movie as being dark. I think it was just more real.
Yeah,
I think there was an effort, you know, to take the cartooniness and make it another level of real.
Yeah, drama, right? A little bit more dramatic.
Yeah. A little bit more real emotions and less cartoony emotions. And like, what if this really was a situation that kids were in? And then that's, I think, where that Stand By Me reference works. It's like
Do you think we set out to do a coming of age film, or was that something that just kind of happened? Do you reckon?
Oh man, I never thought it. Rachel, you're smart as fuck, man. I never thought about that.
I just chat shit. Please know. I just chat shit all day. Just it's so clever. But yeah, no. Just when I look back on it, it feels a bit coming of age.
Yeah. I think we just kind of went in wanting to do a great movie with these characters.
You guys did.
The aftermath is the testament that we're still talking about it, and it's still a thing, I guess, is you know, mission accomplished, you know.
Fucking right, it was a very good movie, man. Now obviously you guys might have not seen this, because it's another Danny question. Baka Kujin, maybe, I'm not sure, so I apologize for probably butchering your name, but did Danny feel any kind of sad moments while writing the final part? Was you guys remember seeing him feel any kind of different, or seem any kind of different with the wrap of this show?
I didn't really see Danny that much, to be fair, because I didn't see anyone because I was working from home, but by the time mainly, or I was in New West in Jono's Yamroll office of the time, so I wasn't around the crew very much. So
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see him working. I knew the few times I was in the studio, I saw his wrath many times.
Mhm.
Um, but sadness was it's not an emotion I saw on his face often.
What about
Only he'd be able to answer that question.
Yeah,
Then.
for sure.
okay. All right. Mad Hideson, maybe? What scene was the hardest to create for you guys? So, Rachel, what was the hardest scene in this movie for you to write?
Oh man, I think it might have been the scene where Ed and Eddie do the quicksand prank and Double D
Loses
falls
his
apart
shit.
thinking, oh my god, they've died. They've actually died. What the fuck do I do? And you know, like his world comes crashing down, and then obviously they come out and go, God, yeah, it was a prank. And he's like, I don't have words for how much I hate you right now. Yeah, so because I did, you know, I was wary of the fact that I didn't want viewers to feel like, you know, they were getting torn apart so much. But then it kind of needed that element of, look, this horrible shit has happened and we're not the same idiots we were in season one. You know what I mean? You can't play with my emotions like that. So that was, again, I guess kind of go back to what Jono and Mike was saying, like, you know, it was a dark part of the film, but like making how do you rein that back so it's hijinks again, because you just can't stay with it being a cartoon. You just can't really stay in that grim place for too long. You got to kind of like eventually bounce off it. So
What about you, Mike? What was the hardest scene for you to write?
I want to say, and I'm probably not remembering this as best as I could, because I know there was a lot of scenes we struggled with, and there was a lot of back and forth going on. But I remember the sunflower field scene. There was like all sorts of things, issues with that one. And that just I just remember that scene going through rewrite after rewrite after rewrite and trying to tie it in and get them to, you know, the gag factory. And I don't remember the specifics. I just remember that scene being particularly difficult to get through.
Yeah. Jono, same question.
I guess I would think of the mini golf scene, because I think it was nighttime and they were going to sleep.
Oh yeah, I remember you and I getting a lot of conversations about that. Yeah, we were talking
because it seemed to be, it's like the opening had lots of energy, and then it seemed like this was like a lull, and it was like, how do you get through this scene without losing all your energy? Like,
Yeah.
how do we keep it going, you know?
Thank Christ you said that, Jono, because I watched the film a couple of days ago and I'm like, I'm sure there was a mini golf segment and it's essentially gone. Like, they do end up going to that location, but they're not there for long. I know we sat there going, am I going crazy? Like, this happened, but
I remember there being a big scene, but I guess, yeah, maybe it got cut.
So
Yeah.
with that same thought process, what was the easiest scene, Rachel? What was the easiest scene for you, or the most fun scene?
Oh, I loved writing all the stuff with with Kevin and Naz of her just getting like increasingly pissed off because he's just obsessed with this fucking bike, and she's just like, I hate this bike, get rid of this fucking bike. And it was just like, it was the way it just kept building and building, and it did get, ironically a bit cartoony with how just in love with his own bike Kevin was, but like it was just getting, and she was getting more irate. So being able to play with it, because obviously with Kevin and Naz, they'd had this will they won't they going on for like seasons of like, are they together? Is there something going on? So being able to actually like play with that a little bit was really fun.
Now, the only reason I asked this is because when I had Scott on, he said one of the hardest things he had to do was draw Kevin's bike. He's like, I fucking hated drawing the Kevin's bike. He's like, I don't know what it was, but it was so difficult. With that being said, was that a joke, in-house joke about the whole bike love thing, just to have Scott stress out and draw this fucking bike? Or is that just me reading too much into it?
That wasn't the intention. Now you told me, that's just made my day, to be honest. It just made Scott's life more difficult. I love it. I love Scott. I'm really messing.
Oh man, he was one of my favorite guests. He was such a funny fucking dude. And then when I reached out to Jono told me to ask him the story about the tapeworm and was it Rita?
McNeil.
Rita McNeil, thank you. I have never laughed harder during a podcast. I had to pause it just so I could finish catching my breath and everything like that. It was so fucking funny. But Mike, same question, man. What was the most fun scene you got to write on?
The opening. I freaking love that opening. The first 3 minutes of that movie are just gold to me. I love that opening. I love just the whole vibe, the atmosphere, the what is going on, the menacing, visuals, and then you just see the it's like, oh my god, it's just so good. It just hooks every time. It just hooks me right in. Love that opening. Yeah, and then when they're running with the car too, that's a
real Flintstones like moment.
Super Flintstones, super funny. That whole opening is just every manic thing we ever did was like cranked to 11 in that first like 10 minutes of that film. It's awesome. I love it.
Whose idea was it to have the whole Dukes of Hazzard bit where they go flying out the roof? Because I love that. That is like hype, that moment.
I don't remember. I mean, Jono, you and I were doing a lot of the writing at that time, and it might have been one of our ideas, or more likely one of the board artists. But yeah,
if you had to pick a board artist that fits him, who would it be? Him or her? Is that another Big Jim? As far as the Dukes of Hazzard moment, if you had to pick one of the board artists that it might have been.
Yeah, I don't want to pick the wrong one and then piss them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll never speak to us again.
Yeah.
Joel, it feels kind of like a Joel. No.
Maybe Joel.
Who can say? I don't remember.
Well, hopefully whenever they watch this, they'll put it in the comments on who it was, and hopefully two board artists will do it, and they'll just start arguing. Because that's always fun. Like, no, I wrote that, or no, I drew that, no, I did this.
Well, it's probably one of us came up with the fucking idea. I just don't remember.
I feel like it could have been a meat stick thing though. Jono,
I mean, it could have.
Man, Jono's trying to stay out of this. He's fucking Poland, man. He's neutral.
He knows.
Well, I think Mike's right that if we say it was the wrong person, then the right person will be annoyed.
Well, it'll be all right. It's nothing new. You guys like stirring the pot, don't you? Jono, same question, man. What was your most fun scene to write on here?
I love the scene and writing the scene that occurred right before that moment when they're in Eddys Brother's room and all the kids are trying to get in and screw in the bolts of the vents and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, how are we going to get out of here? I love that pressure cooker of that.
Yeah. It made it feel like a zombie invasion, like when they're all trying to get in. Like it felt like Night of the Living Dead-esque. Like, oh shit, man, this is creepy. How the fuckers are going to get in here?
That was the vibe. Totally, we were trying to go for. Like how do we survive? We have to survive, and we're trapped in this room. So good.
It really was, man. AM, I think, is their name because that's all I wrote. Do you think the kids would have ever made up with Johnny, or does he still remain an outcast?
Well, Johnny's an outcast by choice. I don't think it has anything to do with the other kids. He's just in his own world. Always has been.
So what you're saying is it's Johnny's fault?
Yeah. It's Johnny's decision to be Johnny 2x4, right? And he's based on a neighborhood kid of Danny's who used to get thrown out of the house in the morning and sit on the corner or curb, and he wouldn't be allowed to go home until like end of the day. So
God, that's fucked up.
His own, yeah, it was. It's a little sad.
The other thing is that's why I brought up the 70s. Like, I really feel like a lot of this stuff is childhood in the 70s.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what it was like, is that your parents would go, okay, you've had breakfast, get out of the house.
Yeah.
I'll yell when it's dinner. And that's what you did. There's no internet or no computers, right? No video games.
Yeah, the only time you kind of had control of the television was Saturday morning. That was the golden kids time. The rest of the time, you're just out there looking for things to do and getting into trouble.
Did that friend of Danny's, or that kid that Danny knew that had to sit on the curb until his parents let him back in the house, did he have a plank, or was that just something he threw in for funny?
I probably think that was added in. I mean, he might have, who knows? I just remember, I specifically remember Danny mentioning there was like this kid who just was a loner, and his parents threw him out of the house and in the morning, and he would just sit there and wait for friends or whatever. But it was sad. Like it was in a sad context. Like this poor kid was just on his own and doing his own thing. You know? But how do we make him funny? How do we make him, interesting and a character? And I think he turned out great. I love Johnny. He's one of my favorite characters on the show. Yeah.
I love Johnny.
Yeah, he's great.
So this one isn't written down, but since we're talking about Johnny, Rachel, what's your favorite Johnny moment? Mike, what's your favorite Jono moment? Or Mike, what's your favorite Jono moment? Mike, what's your favorite Johnny moment? And Jono, what's your favorite Johnny moment? So we'll start with Rachel. Rachel, what's your favorite Johnny moment?
Oh, I always love that episode where Kevin pays the Eds to make Johnny go away, and like the annoying factor just gets dialed up so much. They essentially turn him into a Frankenstein's monster, and it just goes on and on. And the stupid gag where he's in the birdhouse and his head keeps popping out, and he just go why at Sarah over and over again. It's like that is the game that just pissed you off so much, but like it was so well used in that episode.
Yeah, that's a good episode. I like that one as well. That's good.
Is that the one you're choosing too, Mike?
I think so, yeah. Because I love how he was so annoying. He just got on everybody's nerves.
What about you, Jono? What's your
Yeah,
favorite
I'd have to. I mean, honestly, I don't remember like individual scenes like that, but I do remember. I do remember that episode, and that was a lot of fun to write. Like,
yeah, like just trying to make someone as annoying as humanly possible to everybody else in the room is fun.
So that for cash, because people will pay you to get rid of this kid.
It's such a great scam. It's so brilliant. It's such a brilliant scam too. Like Eddy's like, that's an A+ Eddy scam right there. Like, that took some deep thought.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked him in this movie as Melonhead and as the Gourd, and I definitely liked him in the was it the Christmas special where he comes over and was it Father Winter or whatever it is. His whole house is just icicles and shit like that.
Right.
So I liked him in that one. He's definitely a character that's fun as fuck. We already talked about that. Quantume wants to know, was there any problems while making the movie? I know that's a loaded.
Day.
Yeah.
What one sticks out the most to you guys? And it doesn't have to be anything crazy or salacious, but was there anything that really sticks out to you when you think about it, like, fuck, man, I really wish that wouldn't have happened?
Well, the ending switcheroo, I always remember.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Okay.
Because it went from Eddys Brother is fictitious to no, he's there, and that's the complete opposite. So it was like, what?
Yeah, that was a huge pull the carpet out from under us moment. And I remember at the time, like we were, and this is more of a business-y money thing, but the Cartoon Network was doing a Powerpuff Girls movie, and Ed and Eddy movie was supposed to be coming out. And at the time, we were all under the impression that the Ed and Eddy movie would get a theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
So they were putting a lot of money behind it, and we were all on board and hard charging to get this thing done. And then the Powerpuff movie came out while we were working on this, while we were in production on the script. So it was at the very beginning stages of what we were doing, but I remember writing, we were all writing together, and the Powerpuff movie girls came out and it tanked. It did terrible and lost a lot of money at the time. And then I remember Cartoon Network going, whoa, and suddenly they yanked all the money away. And there was like this big problem with finances and stuff. And I remember they had so little money left after this happened that I was technically off the show as a writer after like the first act. And they're like, we can't afford to pay you. And I'm like, whatever, fine. So it is what it is. It has nothing to do with me. I had no control over it. But that didn't, we were still talking every day. Jono's on the phone with me almost daily during the whole process. So even though I wasn't technically on paper or technically employed, I was still, we were still rapping and doing things back and forth and stuff like that. So I remember that was a real challenge too, and how disappointing that was to see how bad the Powerpuff movie did, and it really kind of made an adverse effect on the production of our own movie. But Danny was like, oh well, we're still making a movie.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter that suddenly, whatever the budget that was planned that we were supposed to get suddenly shrunk. He didn't care. He just, we're making this movie. So we did.
Well, what about you, Rachel? You remember anything in particular?
Just to kind of add to Mike's point, this wasn't the first time where Danny had to put his hand in his own pocket and keep that studio going. He had to do that in season 4, and these guys will tell you, so it wasn't new territory to him. And I think whether that was in the back of his mind anyway, of things go south, I might have to fund this thing myself. So there was that element of it. But yeah, just kind of what Mike said, so essentially Powerpuff Girls not doing too great kind of set the tone for our expectations of what we could do, where the film, the kind of reach it would have, but it wasn't going to change the fact that we were going to make a film. We'd set our course to do that. So I think, finances, I went right into my overdraft because I wasn't making any money in the last 4 months of working there and stuff. But I think we were all just kind of tied to the ship of, we need to get this done. So yeah, that was that really. And also everyone was just really tired, really just deep in their soul, fucking tired. So
yeah.
It's funny, you're reminding me that the whole studio went on a retreat once. do like a camp. I don't remember what season that was.
It was before my time.
Right? Everyone complained, right? I wasn't there, but I heard the stories.
Were you guys, Jono, what was it? Sam and Matt and Tony brought it up. Was that where a fucking river was going through the middle of the camp you guys were at? And it might have been a different retreat. I'm not sure, but I remember, I'm misremembering.
It's possible.
I'm not even going to bring it up. I have to go back and look at the tape because they brought up some kind of retreat and something happened. I fucking blank. I don't even know why I brought that shit up. I just want to be a part of the conversation, John. I guess that's what it was. But no, go back to your story, the retreat and everything like that. You guys went on a retreat?
Oh, I just remember that the morale in the studio was so low that it was like, okay, we're all going to go away and we're going to figure it out and feel better and jump back in. I don't know if it worked.
Would you guys do that often?
No, I think we just did that once.
Yeah.
That was just one time.
I remember one time being flown up to be in studio for a couple weeks just because Danny was being so difficult. They wanted somebody there to cheer him up, so they brought me in.
And I wheeled in like the court jester.
Just to make him happy, to give him someone to hang out with and have a beer with or something, so he could chill a little bit. I had to go up there, and I was there for a week, maybe 2, just hanging in the seats. And I wasn't even he would give me boards, and he'd go, just write whatever dialogue you think. I would write dialogue in on these boards, and then give it to me. He goes, this is shit. You just take it all out anyways. And I'd be like, okay, why am I here? What is my purpose here? But
but you made him feel better because he got the shit on you. So there's that.
Yeah. He was just, it was such a weird thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, all joking aside, because that's all that was, I'm sure you made him feel better just seeing somebody else getting to shoot the shit.
Friends at the end of the day. We've known each other a long time. So, even though I wasn't in any capacity to probably do any substantial work, we were hanging out and I was helping out where I can. Actually, I learned how to use the editing machine that shit too, because I had nothing better to do.
There you go, man. You like I said, you helped out. When I just want to make sure I read this through. Do you guys remember, Mr. Mizu wants to know, we talked about the adults not really showing up, no technology. But do you remember when it was decided that there would be no adults shown on the screen in the movie? Was that a conscious effort? Was that just something you guys knew about?
Yeah, that was right in the Bible.
Yeah, okay. Brian E. Wrestling wants to know, was there supposed to be an original intro of Eddys Brother before the Big Picture show?
No, it was never a thing. He was always a legend, a myth, something Eddie used to manipulate the other kids.
Was there a scene where he showed up in his doorway?
Yeah, it was in the closet. So, but you don't see
Yeah.
anything. It's like neck up, and he's like fucking 6'5" or some shit like that. But it looks similar. Like he's got the number 62 on. I think Rachel, was it different? A little bit different?
Was a little bit different because it was Sarah and Jimmy dressing up as Eddie's brother because they just gotten fed up. It was the episode, I think, where Eddie had riled everyone up again about, oh, my brother's coming home and, you know what I mean, going to show all you lot and all this. And so to get their revenge, they dressed up as Eddie's brother to scare the crap out of him, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right.
I wrote that one. I remember that.
Is that one of yours?
Yeah.
Oh.
Was it Ed's house? I'm trying to see if I can't find the picture and show you, but I think it was called Ed's House was the name of the episode, or Eddie's House was the name of the episode, I believe.
No, it was
Ed Pass It On.
Ed Pass It On. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ed Pass It On. Yeah, because he was spreading rumors about his brother coming in, so people would respect him.
Yeah, I was trying to. Somebody had posted the picture of that scene not too long ago. I don't remember where I saw it. I was gonna try to bring it up on the screen, but internet failed me again. Piece of shit. We already answered that one. So Bakujin, I guess that's her name. I don't know, but wants to know another one. Did they ever have any thoughts on including songs in this or any kind of music into the movie?
Musical numbers?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. We did one as a joke in an episode, I think. But Danny hated that shit. Like, the only time you'd ever get something like that was just to spoof it, you know? And I think he did it one time in an episode, running around holding hands and Jimmy singing. I can't remember which episode it is. Like some heart, wasn't it?
Oh, the Friend song.
The Friend
If it's-
song.
yeah.
The Friend song, yeah. That's the only time. And then the Christmas, Rolf's got his song
Yeah.
episode.
Well, Jimmy had a song at the end of the movie, the Stub Your Toe song. I don't know if that counts as far as music, but I know, the Stub Your Toe song or some shit like that. It was something about
That was a reprise of the Friendship song, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason I know this is because I just watched it before we got on this call. So
Rolf had his That's Not My Horse, but I don't think that's a song. That was more like a little dance and a fish slapping.
he always had the
Some
best
years
fucking I'm getting okay. Yeah, I got you. Just a couple more here. What I don't know if that's going to show up or not. So, Alan, your favorite piece of career advice you learned while writing on the show?
Career advice?
Yes.
Like from Danny.
From you.
Or
Well, I guess what would you say is the biggest thing you took away from this by working on this show? If you could give somebody career advice by what you learned with working on Ed, Edd and Eddy, what would it be?
well, be a craftsman.
Be a craftsman. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't churn out crap. Be a craftsman.
Yeah.
Mike, you echo that same sentiment?
Yeah, I have to say the thing I got most out of that experience was quality matters. If the bar is here, always strive for here. Do not ever settle for this. Do not shoot for this. Always push the characters, push the story, push everything you can at all times to the point of almost getting fired. And that's the only way you're going to get it done. It's going to turn out well, and it's always going to be creative and different and push those things, and unfortunately it's just something that doesn't happen most productions you work on, and it's so weird to me because that's just how we kind of came up through the ranks, believing that quality was important. It was the most important thing, do a good show, do a good job.
Beautiful. Rachel, what about you? Same sentiment, or did you learn something different?
I think to, with what these guys have said, for me, it's when you're working on a show like this, don't walk in assuming that you have all the answers. You certainly don't need to know all the answers at any point in your creative career. And, have, I suppose, like have the humility to draw on the knowledge of the people around you and to admit, you know, I don't know what to do with this scene. I don't know what to do with my life, or like, you know, just like really just like be open to the people around you. And just, you know, I think I said this in my last time I had a chat with you, Julian, just that I was so fortunate to be surrounded by so many awesome and talented people who had so collectively decades of experience on me, and like, you know, I just wanted to soak that up as much as possible. So yeah, it's just, I suppose, be kind of with what Jono said of like, don't create crap, but when you do create crap, be able to like reflect on it and where you went wrong, and you know, just understand that it is a process, and you know, you're not going to get it right first time, or maybe not even the 10th time, and it's fine. It's just that's the way your journey goes, really.
Beautiful. And last one. Can Block Frog wants to know, the canker's third eye, was it intentional? I don't know what he's talking about.
What? Doesn't Lee lift her hair up and she's got like another?
Maybe that's what it was.
I'm trying to remember the exact moment.
Yeah, I feel like that's something I've seen, but I just can't put my finger on.
Yeah,
I have to go back and watch it. So I didn't know if that was intentional or if you guys would know.
That sounds like a board artist gag.
Yeah.
Stuck it in there, and they thought it was really funny, and Danny probably went and then left it, right? You know.
All right, man. Well, we've come to the end of the fans' questions, and I already gave you guys my thanks for everything you've done when I had you individually on. And, you know, Mike, you're like the 5th fucking time on here, and I always appreciate having you on here. I'm always amazed when you keep coming back on. Like, but Jono, Mike, and Rachel, man, I really appreciate this movie, the work you've done, and everything you're going to continue to do. Is there anything you guys are working on now that we can push the fans towards, or if people want to come and say hi to you on the social media and the internets, where can they do that at?
I'm on Facebooks, and you know, anyone can always check out my website and contact me through that. MikeKubat.com, not too difficult. I'm still working on Spider-Man. I've been on it for about 2 years now. It's doing really well. I guess it's like a really high rated show, so I'll be continually employed for a bit. And we'll see, you know, so that's all I got going on.
What about you, Jono? You got anything?
Not a lot going on. Just developing. Yeah, just stay tuned. Developing stuff with a company in Ottawa called Jamfilled. Mm-hmm. You know, we got a new show Bible we're putting together, and it'll hopefully be going out like next month. Mm-hmm. You know, to the networks, and cross your fingers, we might get a development deal or something like that. You know, working on spec features with a friend down in LA, and just hoping something's gonna land, you know.
I have a feeling it will.
You know. And in the meantime, just picking up, you know, freelance things here and there.
Beautiful, man. Well, I have a feeling it's going to turn around for you very, very soon, Jono. And Rachel, last but not least, where can fans go and say hi? I like what you do.
They can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under I'm Rachel Luckett. That's my married name now. With stuff I'm working on, I'm hoping to launch a Kickstarter next year for my first novel. I'm working on the 2nd and 3rd at the minute. I'm doing script reports for like my various film producer friends, like every now and then, but they're just kind of haphazard whenever they come up. So yeah, I guess when more stuff comes out, you will be the first to know. I will put out on the socials. So yeah.
Beautiful. I'm really looking forward to it.
And also, if anyone is in the Harrogate or Hull area in November, me and my husband Rob will be at various Comic Cons. You'll get more information about that, and I'll be working with Rob on some stuff next year as well, because we write comics together and stuff. So yeah, and also one last thing, just check out Rob's comic Bumstorm, because he's got issue 5 coming out, and we're going to be releasing a volume next year. It's fun and farty hijinks.
If you can, send me the link for that, and I'll make sure I put it in the video in here since we brought it up. That way, if the fans want to, they can click on it, they can go right to it. Sure. She's been Rachel. He's been Mike. No, that's been Jono because my finger's pointing the wrong way. So he's been Mike. That's been Jono. I've been Julian. This has been the for one day only. This has been the What's in My Ed podcast. And this has been another huge piece of your childhood. Good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Beautiful.